Blog Talk Radio.
Viatorian Voices, Conversations on the Way. Hi, everyone. This is Jim Mitchell, and as always, my pleasure to be here with you to talk about things happening in the Viatorian community, really in a variety of parts of the world. Today, we turn our attention back to Las Vegas, where there's a great presence in Saint Viator Parish and the schools we have talked about out there. Today, we're going to take a look at the role of, families. We're going to talk about dads and husbands and get a view from a couple of associates who've been with the Viatorians for some time and find out about their roles and what faith means in their families. So we'll get started. I'm pleased to welcome Paul Hartz and Romeo Perez to the conversation today. And Paul and Romeo, first of all, thank you both for being here.
Thanks for having us.
Thanks for having us, Jim.
Looking forward to the conversation. First of all, jump in here, guys. Tell me a little bit about Saint Viator Parish. We've mentioned it on the podcast before, but what can you tell us just from an overview about the parish?
Well, Saint Viator Parish has been around for a great number of years. It's a school with the church community right there attached to the same parking lot, right in the heart of Las Vegas. We have a great number of different groups and communities that utilize the facility, and our school kids as well.
And I'll tell you, our kids grew up together, Jim. You know, we have daughters the same age, and my son is just a year older than Paul's youngest daughter. And they grew up going to Saint Viator Parish School, which is fantastic. And the community there is unbelievable. It's great to be around, especially the guys.
Well, and there's some great people out there as well. Those of us who are associated with Saint Viator High School in Arlington Heights have had many faculty and Viatorians pass through here that are out there now. It's one of the great things that connects this community is the way people move back and forth. You each have your own history. Paul, I'll start with you. You've been an associate specifically for over 10 years now. Can you take us back to when you first started discerning and what led to your decision to pursue that position or that role as an associate?
Oh, yeah, of course. The interesting about my relationship with St. Viator is I followed my girlfriend at the time, Rosie, as she became the youth minister back in 2001, and that's how I stumbled into that Viatorian community. And I was welcomed with open arms by a lot of the current dads that were there at the time and welcomed me into the parish. And that welcoming really led me to start learning more about the parish and Father Curbs and the Viatorians and what was so unique. You know, I'm a cradle Catholic, and I didn't have that at my other parishes, so it was very unique at the time, was just that welcoming of a young person into that parish. I mean, 21 years old, and really I was just following a girlfriend to a job, and I found something much more than I ever bargained for with the Viatorians and the welcoming of that community and what it's done for me and my family up to this point.
And we've had the opportunity to talk to Rosie on past podcasts, and she is also an associate and director of youth faith formation at that parish, so tightly interwoven into the community there. Romeo, you have come more recently to become an associate. You have been a part of the parish for a while, also supporting youth ministry. Talk about your path a little bit in terms of how you chose to follow this opportunity.
So my path was a little different. You know, I was born and brought up as Catholic. I was confirmed as Catholic when I was 17 years old, I guess. But from there, I kind of, went away to college, and I looked at different religions. I bounced around a little bit, went to different churches, and it wasn't until I moved to Las Vegas with my wife, Deborah, that we found Saint Viator, and, man, it was like a warm blanket. It seemed like with the community there, we were able to meet people who were like-minded. Like I mentioned, our kids started school there at the parish school. But I think what was important is the fellowship in the community. And it was actually Paul and Rosie who invited Deborah and myself to be Viatorian associates. And we were so involved in the school and in the community, and we really felt like we wanted to help. Whatever it was not a matter of, can I do it? It's when do you need it done? And that's kind of the way it's been with everybody at Viator, and we really enjoyed that sense of community that really brought me to want to be an associate and want to participate at a higher level. So I'm very glad and proud to be part of the associates.
Well, and I'm really interested in your comment there because I've always found it interesting to talk to people who perhaps spent time looking at other religions, being part of other religions. Many of us, as we've heard, and when talking to people, are lifelong Catholics. We were sort of just born into it. And I've always thought there's something special about someone who chooses to be a part of it based on time as an adult or a young person, trying to discover. Tell me a little bit more about that process of looking around and what it was that really brought you back or brought you into this Catholic community.
So, when I was growing up, my parents, we went to St. Joseph Catholic Church in Texas, and that's all I ever knew until I went up to the University of Texas in Austin. And it was there where I met people from other religions, and I would go to church because I knew church was important. Always believed in God, never really wavered from that. It was more of the question of how am I going to believe in God? Do I believe in the saints? Do I believe in the path, to heaven? And it was always yes and no and maybe. So I said, why am I not going to figure out what other people think? And I did. So I had an opportunity to go to Christian, the evangelical, Methodist, Baptist, kind of made my way around depending on who I was hanging out with at the time. But I always knew that the focus was God. So when I got married and we moved to Las Vegas, obviously I went right to the Catholic Church because that was what I knew to do. And when my wife and I decided, well, we happen to live near Saint Viator, that's where we started to go. And as we started to have our children became school age, we realized it was more important. But then we started to meet the people on a different level. And with Father Wren and people like Rosie and Paul who introduced us to the community, God, it seemed like that was our home. That was going to be our place. This is where we wanted to raise our kids. So it was an easy call to put our kids in school there, even though it was private school and it was going to cost us some money. We knew that training was going to be important to us for them to have, to create that foundation for them. Like my parents created the foundation for me. My kids may choose a direction and may look around like I did, but I want them to have the foundation like we had to make their decision and ultimately come back to the Catholic Church.
Great conversation today with Romeo Perez, Paul Hartz, both from Saint Viator Parish in Las Vegas on Viatorian Voices. Our conversation's on the way, and both have introduced a little bit about their journey, their lives, and mentioned they have a couple of kids. So, Paul, I'll start with you. Let's talk about faith at home. As you have begun raising a family, kids are involved in school now. What's the role of faith within the family?
We still are very traditional in the fact that we have a majority of our meals home together, even though I have a daughter that's a senior, another 8th grader who's just extremely busy with school and cheer and all that great stuff. But we start every meal with a prayer, and we have to ground ourselves and we give thanks for the many blessings we've had. I can't say enough how lucky we are to found the Viatorian community, and it's granted us things that sometimes would have been inaccessible at times, and it's really been a blessing. So we start by just giving thanks at home. It's the backbone and foundation of our family. Rosie and I, we firmly believe that you have to live the lifestyle. It's one thing to talk about it, but you have to live it. It starts at home, and giving your kids an opportunity to pray and share their prayers with you, and just make it a welcome environment for it. And that's what we've tried to do from the get-go with our children. We bless them good night still to this day. I go in there and I tell them, God bless your dreams, and I give them the sign of the cross, and that started when they were babies. So, we understand the blessings and how fortunate we are to be where we are and the sacrifices that our Lord made for us. And we don't take that for granted. And our Viatorian community reminds us of all those blessings, and we try to pay it forward, and we try to ingrain in our kids from whether it's giving thanks or working to help others.
And Romeo, is prayer part of the family routine in your home as well?
It is, Jim. You know what? Same as Paul. We have many meals together. Always bless the food before we get started, whether it's at home or at a restaurant. That's always been important. In the evening, we bless the children before they go to bed. Honestly, I'm having a son who's struggling with his faith right now. But it's funny because we have a prayer to Saint Monica, and as you know, Saint Monica had a son who was away from the church, and she prayed for 15 years, but her prayers were answered. So I have that belief that our Father is going to bring my son back to the church. So yes, prayer is a big part of our family law. My children see that we do it. My children do it when we talk about things. So yes, absolutely.
We've got just a couple minutes left and so much more to talk about, and I'm going to kind of throw a question out that could go on quite a while on its own, but maybe if one or both of you could talk a little bit about, and we've touched on it a little bit, about being dads, about being a parent in a home with kids, trying to set an example. What's the line you walk between trying to push too hard and just trying to influence and guide children in faith?
We always tell our kids, you want to be around people that make you the best version of yourself, and that starts at home. I need to be setting the example for my kids. I can't expect them to do something I'm not willing to show themselves, whether it's volunteering or giving to others. Really setting the tone from there, because I think if we're setting that example of being the best version of ourselves to go out and shine a light, they're going to find people that are like-minded like that in their own lives and hopefully emulate what they see.
And we talk a lot about grace in my house, especially now that the kids are getting older. My daughter's a senior in high school. She's getting ready to go off to college. And we try to talk to the kids about giving people grace, because you don't know where people are coming from. But that also requires us to give grace. So whenever they see us talk about people or hear about us, talking about situations at work or our friendships, we've got to make sure that we are showing grace to our friends and to the people, like in my line of work with clients. If we show grace, then we teach them grace. They'll learn to give a break. They'll learn to understand that other people are going through things that we may not understand or know, but we have to give grace in order to receive it. And that's a lot of what we do at the house.
And last question before I let you gentlemen go. Obviously, your wife's very involved with youth ministry. Both of you have been. You've had some work with the Viatorian Youth Congress. What's your view right now of young people and faith? Are you encouraged by what you see in the world today and the role that young people are going to play for the next generation in establishing faith lives?
I think that's a really interesting question. It's got a lot of layers to it. But I can look at it from the standpoint of the Viatorians and the work that both of our wives do and the work that we do helping support them in their causes and their missions in our church, is that I believe wholeheartedly that if we continue on the road we're continuing on, and we continue to work hard, and we're putting good kids out there in the world, we're going to continue to grow as a community, whether it's Viatorian or Catholicism. There's great kids doing great things, and they dream far bigger than I ever dreamed. We have kids in Chicago. We have kids in Vegas that are, they're trying to help the poverty line. They're trying to put clothing on kids' backs, on kids they've never met, just because they had a connection at VYC. Those great things you see in small gestures from those young people give me all the faith in the world that we're in good shape.
And I agree with Paul, man. I mean, the kids are exposed to so much more through social media, through the news and all, and they want to help. And the fact that they've got such a big heart comes from the foundation that we give them as Viatorians and in our church. And I think we build that in. We make those good hearts, and then they make those good hearts work. And I am encouraged in that respect.
Well, we certainly appreciate all that you have done and the examples you've set as not only associates but as parents. Paul Hartz, Romeo Perez, thanks so much for joining us here and being a part of the Viatorian community, which proclaims Jesus Christ and his gospel and raises communities where faith is lived, deepened, and celebrated. That is so much for what the Viatorian community is all about. Specifically in Las Vegas, at the Saint Viator Parish, and you can find out more at saintviator.org, STVIATOR.org. We appreciate everyone being with us. Thanks so much for listening.